Let's take a look at what's happening with commodities market. Joining me now is Bolanle Agbaje, Senior Analyst, Financial Derivatives Company.
Hi,
great to have you, Bolanle. Good morning.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so looking at the global commodities market now, we see that we've had about a 25% slump for most of the commodities in 2023. They hit incredible highs in 2022 from oil, natural gas, but they've all come down to reality, even grains too.
Yeah, because, well,
and this morning we're seeing, the same pattern with oil prices up yesterday, down today, and it's down today.
I think the major impact of that, or the major reason for that, is the fact that demand is saturated. Demand can only be pushed as much as, the income that is available in the economy. And, most people are now strapped when it comes to disposable income. So that obviously would have an impact on how much further prices would go up. And obviously last year we had seen, the supply situation where there were supply bottlenecks and all that. And that obviously affected prices and pushed up prices significantly. But this year, the demand situation is already cramping, a high interest rate environment. So individuals within the economies are, feeling the heat. And that obviously is translated into, the price stickiness.
And definitely we still have geopolitics, with us right now. And that was what drove, prices up in 2022.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, does geopolitics still have that power, in these markets?
Well, it has already been factored into, the prices that we're seeing now. So except something different happens with the political scene, obviously everybody has already priced in the fact that, the war is currently still going on. I don't think people are bothered about it anymore. It's still obviously there lingering, and most economies are looking for solutions around it. But you see a situation where the EU is looking for ways to actually ease out the sanctions on Russia, because they're looking at increasing the supply of of the grains, majorly wheat, from that region. So what we can say that the geopolitical scene right now is not necessarily having a negative impact on the prices as we're seeing so far. But
hoping for no escalation.
Hoping for no escalation, because obviously most of these governments are trying to hamp down on these high prices. We're seeing the fact that the high inflation environment is restricting, or creating a situation where you have monetary policies that, tailor or tackle that initial problem. And so far, so good. Most economies are able to, reduce inflation gradually, although Nigeria is still battling, that issues. Many other African countries are actually easing out on their inflation numbers, except for Nigeria at the moment. Right. But we do hope, although, you have major agencies like the World Bank that mentioned that they expect our inflation numbers to get to about 25%. And others, obviously less optimistic, are saying about 30%. We don't hope that that happens. Right. But all in all, inflation is still very high, and we're still trying to figure out how to bring that down.
Everyone is trying to figure inflation out, this year. But let's look at the domestic commodity prices there. I see tomato prices there, about 70,000.
70,000.
27% rise, and pepper.
Yes. So, obviously with the fuel subsidy removal, that obviously affected transportation costs. That goes across the board for all commodities, but particularly with tomato, we're seeing the tota absoluta pest that is affecting, the supply of tomato at the moment, and that obviously has added to, the stress of, increased cost when it comes to, the output. But this tota absoluta has been a pest that has, affected tomato on and on for the past few years. And to find ways to make sure that, this is not the case, obviously it requires investment and technology. Storage, when it comes to storage of harvest that you had gotten in previous months, to make sure that you save that to, supply the demand that we're seeing at the moment, whereby the supply of tomato cannot, feed that demand. So I guess lack of investment in this commodities market space is what is affecting or making this particular issue, because you always have cases where pests usually affect some of those commodities, because that's just what it is.
Battling pests, that's another issue entirely there, because most of the insecticides and pesticides used also kind of harm
They do. They harm consumers, so there's only so much that they can do. But I'm sure to get the particular pesticides that will be tailored to that kind of infestation would obviously be more expensive. And I'm sure that's not what they're using at the moment, because everybody's trying to save costs. So going forward, looking for ways to make sure that this kind of issue...
The cheaper pesticides are normally harmful.
Well,
majorly, there's a risk of it being.
Well, I'm not sure about the research on that or the specific details about the different kind of pesticides, but when it comes to it would make sense that the ones that definitely kill all these pests would be way more expensive than the cheaper ones that I'm pretty sure that we're probably using at the moment. But all in all, even if you can't find ways to tackle the pests when it comes to the right pesticides to use, storage is an issue. A situation where we had a huge harvest, it will make sense that you have good storage facilities to store the tomatoes at optimum quality, to make sure that at this point where we're seeing supply shortfalls, we're able to feed the demand going forward.
All right, let's look at sugar futures now. It's down about 0.64%. We're seeing more supply
in Brazil
coming from Brazil.
Yes.
So is this good for us?
Yes, it's definitely good for us, because we're also major. As much as we have the Dangotes that produce, it's still not enough for our economy, and we definitely import a certain amount of sugar, and so we're on the receiving side of things, so it's great for our trade balance. When it comes to obviously cocoa as well, we had mentioned that although the prices in Ogun, Osun and Cross River is a bit high at the moment, but it's not as high as what the global prices are trading at. I think it ranges at about $2,500 per metric ton, but in Ondo we're seeing lower prices at about $2,400. But all in all, when it comes to the sale of cocoa, export revenue should reach about $731 million. Unlike we have it on our slides as well, the fact that in Tanzania, cashew is one of their major commodities, and they're earning at about $760 million there as well, and obviously that's great for them. And the fact that Nigeria is much bigger than Tanzania, for example, imagine how great it is that the export revenue is currently at about less than what we're earning in cocoa at the moment.
Quite interesting. Let's look at the other global exports now. We see Tanzania's cashew nut export revenue.
Yes.
That's up by about 5.6%.
Yes. Yeah, so
quite good for them.
Yeah, it's quite good for them, and it just shows the potential. Right now, especially the western part of the world, they're looking for new sources of major commodities, and it's just be nice to take advantage of it. We've had situations where Kenya has taken advantage, Botswana, Angola, and Tanzania as well. So Nigeria has opportunities right in front of them.
Because we have cashew.
Yes, definitely, we have cashew. But I think right now the investment required to boost our cashew production to that level is what we're lacking, and in many other commodities as well. And another point to mention, LNG is a good one at the moment. Right. It seems like the NNPC mentioned that we had secured funding for the Lagos-Morocco or Nigeria-Morocco pipeline. Currently, I think they're trying to release funding for the survey up until Senegal. So that's great for us, because it means that we can boost our export revenue with that. And I know obviously most people would mention the fact that you're trying to boost export revenue outside of Nigeria, but within the country, we're not able to meet the domestic demand. But if they think about it this way, whereby once you increase the export revenue by supplying, other African nations, you can use the profits from that to improve our own gas pipeline within the country and obviously increase our production in the near term.
All right, what are you seeing for domestic commodity prices next week?
Well, next week prices will definitely still remain high. It's too short. There's nothing significant that is changing prices at the moment. We've not really gotten into the harvest season yet, and we do hope that although the tuta absoluta, it doesn't last for long. Once the farmers are able to plant and replenish, that lost supply, we'll definitely see prices come down, hopefully. And I guess when most manufacturers and farmers as well, when they price into their cost, or they've added the price of the fact that they've removed subsidy, the transportation cost, all of that, we'll definitely see, and they look for innovative ways to absorb those costs, we'll definitely see prices go down in the
Right, because I remember when I was younger, I used to grow tomatoes in my backyard, and I didn't have that issue, and they did come out right, but I'm sure it's because it was just
the
for
volume,
my consumption.
I guess, yes,
exactly. That's why they
when
didn't
you look
attack
at
me.
the volumes,
Right.
it will definitely,
Exactly.
be
All
different.
right. Thank you so much, Bonle Agbaje, Senior Analyst, Financial Derivatives Company.
Thank you for having me.